पहनने में बाद में सिलेक्ट हुआ वो था क्यों इस बार मैं जरूर अच्छे में ड्रेस लेकर उठना अच्छे में ड्रेस लेके बताओ भी है ड्रेस देखा देखो ड्रेस पे ध्यान सही पर नीचे से हैवी नहीं है ना ज्यादा बट मेरा वर्क थोड़ा हैवी है बट अगर कुछ है तो ठीक है यार लास्ट ईयर है क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है दूसरा ऑप्शन है तो क्यों यार तसल्ली चाहिए तसल्ली लेने वाली अभी तो कोई मैसेज नहीं आया ग्रुप पर नहीं क्या करूँ अभी मेरे नहीं जाना मैसेज है नेट नहीं चल रहा है तो तेरा क्यों टाइम क्या भाई क्या ही होगा भाई क्या ही थोड़ा तो कॉमन सेंस लगाना है यार कितनी पूरी तो अगली बार से मैं नहीं दे रही थी देखा कल याद आया संजीवी रोड क्रॉस करते वक्त कोई तो थाना जा रहा है रोड क्रॉस हां अच्छा देखा कांड करेंगे सिक्योरिटी का Hi, friends. How are you doing? Yes. Hi. This is मैंने देखा नहीं मेरे लिए मालूम तुमने तो बोला क्या होना है उसके पास 13
इंडिया 1 महीने पहले का भी दे
और एक एक 5 आ रहे हो 3 4 5 अच्छा है क्या? 3 4 रहेगी तो 7 3 और 4 रहेगी तो 7 मोटिवेशन कम ही होना चाहिए गाइस।
अबे
मोटिवेशन कम होना चाहिए। 3 और 4 रहेगी अभी इसका मैं क्या करूं? सबको आया है। अरे है ना हम तुम्हारी रील बनाएंगे रील। अरे हम लोग प्रैक्टिस करने जा रहे हैं। हम लोग प्रैक्टिस करने जा रहे हैं नाच में। अरे जैनी मैनो मैम सब किसी नाच रही है भाई। सब नाच रही है। हम उनकी शक्ल देखते इयरिंग की शक्ल क्या देखेंगे? हम उनकी शक्ल देखते इयरिंग अरे वो तो बेटा नीचे नाम आरती का अरे हम आरती का नाम की शक्ल देखते उनकी इयरिंग में कोई शक्ल जेन्युइन क्वेश्चन। अरे
अबे भैया
मैं बैक
अपना क्या यूटी
बैक
पूरा अरे 10 मिनट का
अभी पीटीएम के आगे शिफ्ट हो गया 26 तारीख को
उसके अगले दिन छुट्टी ना
26 को
26 को पीटीएम है हां
हम लोग का नहीं
ए जर्नी हमारे यहाँ शिफ्ट हो गया 26 को पीटीएम संडे को
अबे संडे
हां व्यूअर पार्टी तो देना क्या दे
किस चीज का पार्टी
किधर ओपन से क्या
डोमिनोज
डोमिनोज
अबे बोल रहा हूं
डोमिनोज नहीं ओके
हां तो ये करके दिया बचा नहीं होगा पर जिसमें चले सीखने मोस्ट ऑफ द मार्क तो बोला था नहीं पता नहीं
Why did you remain absent? Okay, done. Let us continue again. What we were discussing is what are the segments of the DNA known as? We were talking about this. What are the segments of the DNA known as? Genes. What do genes regulate? Genes regulate various characters. Now, since the characters for any particular example, I am talking about one example, that is the eye color. Whichever example you talk about skin color. There are various different types. You talk about the amount of hemoglobin. It has types. It has the amount of hemoglobin is different in different individual. It's not the same exactly. The amount of any specific hormone is different. The amount of any specific enzyme is different. The height is different. The texture of the hair is different. The shape of the nose is different. Eye is different. Finger is different, etc. So, any particular character you talk about, there are traits. So, if a character has got various traits, so definitely the gene that controls the character should also have different forms. So, what are the different forms of a gene? Alleles. What are the different forms of a character? Traits. Now, if this much is understood, now we talk about some pairs of chromosomes. What do we do when we are representing a pair of sticks? What does this represent? What does this mean? It means a pair of chromosomes. How are the chromosomes in our cells? Always paired. How many pairs of chromosomes? 23. 23 pairs of chromosomes, that is 46. So now when we are talking about this 46 chromosomes, the paired condition of the chromosomes, I would say that this is the specific gene. Why am I talking about a pair of chromosome? Because one comes from the mother, the maternal chromosome, and one comes from the father, the paternal chromosome. And this maternal and the paternal chromosome will always come and combine together, forming a pair. and that is what is known as a homologous pair. How many such pairs in our cells? 23 such pairs in our cells. And now when I'm talking about what is this section then known as? This section is known as a gene. And how many such genes may be there in our chromosome? In hundreds, in thousands. Specific chromosomes in our cells have got 30,000 such genes, some 10,000, some 15,000, some 12,000 genes. So there are so many different type of genes that we are talking about and specific characteristics. Now let us understand certain situations. Here we are talking about there is one particular pair of chromosomes, something like this. Okay, before that, now that I talk about these three different alleles, how are alleles and genes denoted? They are always denoted with the help of a number or with the help of a letter, generally letter. So, with the help of a letter or a number, the genes are always denoted. So, let me also talk about certain letters here. I would say capital B responsible for brown. Maybe B and L responsible for black, and maybe small b for blue. What am I writing here? I am writing certain letters which means certain alleles, which denotes certain alleles. So for an example, and all the genes in our body are like that, all the genes in our chromosomes are like that. With the help of a letter, sometimes the initial of the biologist, the scientist who had discovered them, sometimes with a number talking about the year or etc. when it was discovered, in short. So that is where the location of the chromosome. So how roughly, if I have to tell you now, that how are the genes generally demarcated or denoted? Always with a number or with a letter, sometimes capital letter, sometimes small letters, lowercase.
Lowercase is used for SSL.
We'll talk about that way. So now when we are talking about this, now I'm just mentioning what? There are some letters and these letters denote different forms of eye color. Capital B for brown, BL for black, small b for blue. And what is this? These are the different alleles for eye color, the gene for eye color. So what are these? Are these not different alleles? We are denoting all these letters. And these are all alleles, remember. What are these? These are all alleles. Capital B is one allele, BL another allele, small b another allele. Now I want to find out in 4 or 5 different individuals, are the chromosome pair exactly the same for one particular character, which is the character eye color we are studying right now. And I want to find out, is this character been more or less found to be the same in 4 or 5 different individuals? No, in certain individual, in the pair of chromosome, it is found that look into the gene and it is found that the gene is something like this. The alleles are like this. Okay, then this is for the first individual maybe. Now I talk about the second. In case of the second is what? And I talk about the third. In case of the third what? And then I talk about one more. In case of the fourth what? So I just compare 3, 4 individuals and try to find out. This is a gene. What is this gene responsible for? This is a gene responsible for the eye color. And but then when I look into the arrangement of the alleles in 4 different individuals, it is not the same. One has got something like this. What about the other one? This person has something like this. What about the third person? In the third, the condition is something this way. What about the fourth? In the fourth, the condition is something like this. But in all of them, this particular gene may be at one particular location of the 9th chromosome is just responsible for the eye color. This is the 9th chromosome maybe I'm talking about for all these individuals. For all the 4 individuals, I'm talking about the 9th chromosome, the 9th pair. And in the 9th pair, for the first individual, I see the arrangement of alleles are like this. Second like, third, and the fourth. So one thing what you understand from all these 4 pairs is how many alleles can accumulate in a pair of chromosome? Only 2. how many alleles can accommodate? Now, how many alleles? Now, I'm writing 3. I'm writing. But can a person have all the 3 together? No, only 2. Why? Only 2 alleles for a gene can be present in a pair of chromosome. Give reason. What to write? Because we have got paired chromosome. Only 2 chromosomes make a pair. It's not so. So even if the gene is having 27 alleles, can a person have all of them? Can a person have 6 of them? Can a person have 9 of them? No, only 2. Nothing more than 2 alleles. Now try understanding these conditions. This chapter is over in school, no?
No.
Yes.
You all have done?
Yes.
Which school done?
Yes.
So you should be knowing the answer. So when we are talking about this, that this is a pair of allele. This is a pair of allele. How would I write? I would also write the pair of allele is something like this. What is the color of the eye of this individual? The color of the eye of this individual is found to be brown. Why? Because this capital B that I write generally means it's a powerful chemical composition. Out of the three, this is the most powerful, less, and the least. So is this applicable for every gene, every character? Yes, every character will have some few number of alleles. In that sequence of alleles, some combinations will be very, very prominent, always expressing. Some combinations will express lesser and some combinations will express least. So here we are talking about that this allele is expressing. Okay, let us see the second condition. In the second condition, I wrote capital B and BL together. I just now told you one thing. Out of these 3, this is the most powerful, meaning this will always express whatever be the other allele present with it. Then can you tell me what should be the color of the second individual? Brown. So what is the combination of the allele this person has? The combination of the allele is something like this. What is the color of the eye? The color of the eye is brown. What about the third? What about the third? Okay, let me just make a little bit of a change and then you tell me. If I make a change, something like this, then what is the arrangement of the allele? This and this, and the color is black. Why? Because when I compare these two, this is more powerful. When I compare these two, this is more powerful, and this is always powerful. Then what are those powerful alleles known as? It's a chemical composition, nothing else. Dominant alleles. An allele which is always expressing, in this form also it is expressing, with the presence of other allele also it is expressing, with the presence of this also expressing, with the presence of this also, when this expresses, this is dominant. But if I talk about a condition something like this, where the individual has B and BL, then what? Brown. Then brown. So here the third condition. What about the fourth? Blue. The color is, the allele combination is this. And what will be the eye color? Blue. Now some more words to understand. When this type of condition is there, where both the chromosome has the same identical allele, what is this type of a condition known as? This type of a condition is known as a homozygous condition. What is homozygous? When both the chromosome contain the same identical allele for a gene. When both the chromosome contains same identical allele for a gene, homozygous. Is this also homozygous? Yes, this is also homozygous. But then there is a difference. What is the difference? This I would write, this is a recessive homozygous condition, because we are using lowercase alphabets. Why are we saying that this is a dominant, this is a recessive allele? Because when this allele is present with the other one, when I talk about a combination something like this, say suppose here, I talk about a combination something like this, what will be the eye color? Brown. That means this particular allele, when both of these alleles are the same, then it is expressing. But the moment it is with some other allele, it is not expressing. The moment the small b is with some other allele, it never expresses. So What is the meaning of a recessive allele? Any allele which expresses only when it is present in an identical form. Other than the identical form, if some other contrasting allele, they never express it. So always remember this rule. So now if that is termed as recessive homozygous, then what should I term this as? This should be dominant homozygous. Is this couple of terms clear? I had been talking about dominant and recessive genes. Then what is the definition of a dominant gene? A dominant gene is one which is expressing in the homozygous as well as in the heterozygous condition. Then what are such type of conditions known as? This is known as heterozygous. Hetero means different. Homo means same. What is a homozygous condition? A homozygous condition is one where the chromosome pair has same identical alleles for a gene. Same identical alleles homozygous, same identical alleles homozygous. Heterozygous when? Different. Alleles are different, heterozygous. Alleles are different, heterozygous. Look into these conditions, different pairs of chromosomes. We all have different type of arrangement of alleles, and that's the reason our characteristics, morphological, physiological characteristics are different. Yes? Homologous is the pair of chromosome. The pair of chromosome, one coming from the mother and one coming from the father. That is called homologous. And something like, why the sixth chromosome of the father and six will make a pair? No. I talk about the ninth chromosome from the mother. Will the ninth chromosome ever pair with the 13th chromosome? Never. Why? Because the gene sequences are different. So how would the pair of chromosomes be in the nucleus? The pair of chromosomes 6th and 6th, 9th and 9th, 13th and 13th, 20th and 20th, 5th and 5th. Why like that? Why not just at random 6th and 9th and 7th and 15th? No, it's not like that because the gene sequences are the same. No. Mother and father of the same species, the gene sequences are almost the same, except for few. Are these terms clear? What is the dominant gene? A gene which expresses both in the homozygous as well as in the heterozygous condition. What is a recessive gene? A gene which only and only expresses in the homozygous condition. Is it expressing in the heterozygous? Is a recessive gene ever expressing in the heterozygous condition? Not at all. Write this definition very fast on your own. Define homozygous and heterozygous conditions. Once you understand these definitions very clearly, understanding the law very simple. Homozygous conditions means what? What are homozygous conditions? Or what is a dominant allele? Dominant and recessive allele you should know. What is a dominant allele, right? A dominant allele is one. A dominant allele is one which expresses. A dominant allele is one which expresses. Dominant allele is one which expresses both in the homozygous. Dominant allele is one which expresses both in the homozygous as well as heterozygous conditions. And the other side, what is a recessive allele then? What is a recessive allele then? What is a recessive allele? A recessive allele is one which expresses only in the homozygous condition. An allele which expresses only in the homozygous condition. An allele which expresses only in the homozygous condition. Only in the homozygous condition is known as recessive allele. Understood? Is there any doubt here? Anybody has a confusion here? Identical alleles. एक जीन का 4 भी एलील हो सकता है, 6 भी एलील हो सकता है, 15 भी हो सकता है, 20 भी हो सकता है. But then, in a pair of chromosome, when you check the two alleles, are they exactly the same? है तो identical, and that is a homozygous condition. Two different alleles है, then it is a heterozygous condition. Doubt है?
It should be like we can only see it.
What did you write? What did you write? Recessive allele is one which expresses both in
No, dominant is the one which expresses in
both in homozygous and heterozygous condition.
and recessive.
Recessive, what did you write?
I wrote heterozygous.
No, always homozygous. A recessive allele is one which will only and only express in the homozygous condition, never in the heterozygous. कहाँ पे? Heterozygous में express हो रहा है. What is the eye color? Tell me of this individual. What is the eye color of this individual? अगर ये eye color blue होता, then we would have said that yes, eye color is the recessive allele is expressing in the heterozygous. Clear है? Clear है?
What is the reason being black dominant and other being used?
It's a chemical composition. Jैसे when we talk about the melanin, it is nothing but a specific type of a chemical composition. Hemoglobin is a specific type of a composition. Similarly, now that I talk about the entire DNA is made up of certain units. और वो repeating units का एक specific composition है. So these compositions sometimes they are expressing, sometimes they are not expressing. Expressing मतलब क्या? What is the meaning of expression? Expression matlab the pigment should be formed and that should be seen in our body. That is the meaning of expression when I say. So when we are talking about the brown pigment generally forms much faster or in large amount. If I put it very simple, this is a particular type of a allele which can produce an adequate amount of the protein and that protein shows a color. Blue allele produces a small amount of the protein. That's the reason it remains subsided. Jab only B and B present together, then the protein is more, the color is more, and that is seen. Otherwise, that is always subsided by the brown and the black. Okay?
Ma'am, so both the conditions are
Homozygous. Both the condition homozygous नहीं है. This is homozygous. Not a problem. You are learning this for the first time. This is homozygous. इसको बोलेंगे heterozygous. When the other allele is not the same, मतलब both chromosome में अलग-अलग allele है for the same gene.
Ma'am, so we are calling it dominant because the brown is more powerful.
हाँ, किसको हम dominant बोलेंगे? Out of the two जो express होता है उसको ही dominant बोला जाता है. Out of a pair of allele, जब heterozygous condition है, out of a pair of allele, whichever allele is expressing is dominant. Can you give me one more character? अगर ये concept समझ में आया, you should be able to give me any other character in human. बोलो एक और example. Hair color, hair texture. Hair color से ज़्यादा hair texture is very easy to understand for you all. When I talk about the hair texture, what are the different types of common hair textures? क्या है? Hair textures are very curly, and then wavy, and then straight. These are the three most commonly found in population. But apart from that, also there are some more types. But we are not talking about that. Like जैसे ऐसे, यहाँ पे we are not talking about the green color. We are not talking about the hazel. We are not talking about the red. वो भी तो eye color है, but these are not the normal ones. तो जैसे hair texture के भी some specific forms. Skin color के भी कितने सारे forms हैं. Brown black नहीं बोलते उसको, wheatish बोलते हैं, fair बोलते हैं. So now that we are talking about this different type of skin colors also, clear? Now let us compare. Which one? Color. Texture of the hair we majorly think of, which is the most dominant. The most dominant is the wavy hair texture. Then more than that also we talk about the curly, and then the wavy, and then the straight. The straight is the recessive, one of the recessive forms. Straight hair color is recessive. The wavy is dominant. Three common. Beyond this normal ones also there are another 5 to 7 eye colors are there. The hazel, the cat's eye, the green, the golden, the red. Sometimes two different eye, two different colors. Yes, follow. These are traits. Character is eye color. Yes. क्या है doubt? हेयर कलर ब्लू ग्रीन ब्लैक नहीं होता. ब्लू ग्रीन वो तो डाई करने के बाद होता है नॉर्मली. आई कलर इज द कैरेक्टर. Just like hair texture is the character and the wavy and the straight and etc. are the traits.
So brown, black, and blue. They are
Traits. Traits. And the form of the gene responsible are alleles. So form of the gene कैसे लिखेंगे? In letters. अच्छा, अभी देखो. Now there's one more couple of words that you have to understand. Here, now we talk about this. I am writing down the arrangement of the allele. Allele को कैसे लिखेंगे? How does a pair of gene? What are the two alleles in a pair of gene? We will write this way or this way. So, how do we write alleles? Using letters. Dominant है तो capital letter, recessive है तो small letter. So, what is this known as? What is this known as? This is known as the genotype. Understand these terms. ये terms नहीं समझोगे तो आगे का loss, it will be, I have to break my head to make you understand. These words you should be very, very clear. These words have to be very clear. Once you know the meaning, then fatapat pick ho jayega. So what is the meaning of the genotype? Genotype means what? How we write alleles in a gene. A pair of chromosome may have 100 such pairs. Yes or no? ये जो letters में हम लिखेंगे, the numbers में जो लिखेंगे, that is what is talking about the form of the gene present in that pair of chromosome. So what is the genotype? Simple definition of genotype क्या है? The genetic makeup. The pair of alleles for a gene, that is genotype. And because of the genotype, the brown color. ये brown color हमें दिखता है कि ये capital B and capital B हमें दिखता है. What do we get to see in an individual? The brown color or the B? Brown color. The visual expression of a gene. What is this known as? Phenotype. What is the meaning? Phenotype and genotype. What is genotype? The pair of alleles in a, or pair of alleles for a gene. What is genotype? Understand. What is genotype? लिख के रखो. What is genotype and phenotype? Differentiate genotype and phenotype. What is the meaning? Genotype मतलब क्या? Genotype means the pair of alleles for a gene. The pair of alleles for a gene or the genetic makeup. That is known as genotype. The pair of alleles for a gene. The pair of alleles for a gene is known as the genotype. Also known as the genetic makeup of an organism, that is known as genotype. Then what is phenotype? What is phenotype? Phenotype means the visual expression. We are not able to see whether each one of us, we have got capital B or capital a small b or a BL or whatever. But we are only able to see whether our eye colors are brown or blue or black. So what we are able to see, that is phenotype, the visual expression, right now. The visual, VISIBLE, the visual expression of a gene, what we are able to see in an individual, in a plant, in a flower, that is phenotype of a gene, of a pair of alleles, of a gene or a pair of alleles, that is known as phenotype. What is phenotype? The visual expression of a gene or a pair of alleles. Gene ये पूरा हो गया. Gene, this entire thing is the gene or a pair of alleles. Yes, that is mutant. That's a defective condition.
A gene is basically a pair of alleles.
A gene is basically a chemical composition, nothing else. The entire DNA is a chemical composition, macromolecule itself. It's a big.
What's the difference between gene and allele?
Gene and allele, if I have to make it even more simpler, what is gene? Gene is something like, it's a big molecule. But that big molecule the big molecule again has got some different types. That big molecule has got some different types. So those 2 or 3 or 4 types that forms the big molecule, this is known as alleles. So now that I talk about what is this gene for eye color made up of how many alleles? 3 alleles. So these 3 alleles will all make up the gene for the eye color.
So eye color is a gene.
Eye color is a character. The forms of eye color, brown and black and blue traits. For example, I talk about the color of the flower. That's a character. तो उसके traits क्या हो सकते हैं? If you have understood traits and character, now you tell me. I'm saying color of the flower is a character. Tell me the 5 traits. Red and pink and yellow and orange and white. आया समझ में? Example ले चाहिए. The types of the color. आया समझ में? So that is the difference. I already gave you examples about the hair texture. We talk about the shape of the fingers and the nose and the earlobe and the hairline and etc. It is not the same. Even if I talk about the hairline, is it the same for all of us? No. There are so many variations in each one of us.
So what's the difference between trait and allele?
Trait and allele. Traits are different forms of a character. Alleles are different forms of a gene. एक बड़ा सा जीन है. This particular gene is controlling a character. But ये character के कितने सारे forms है? तो sir, definitely the gene also should be having different forms. How is it possible that only one form of the gene and 7 different forms of the character? Possible नहीं है ना? So एक particular gene, अगर एक ही part, now say I talk about the character. Human population has only brown eye color, nothing else. Then the gene is also in only one form. But human population में eye color is not in one form. It is in 3 major forms. So definitely the gene also will have 3 different major forms. So gene के forms को बोलेंगे allele and character के forms को बोलेंगे traits. Clear है? Anybody any doubt till so far?
So the traits are controlled by the alleles.
Exactly. Traits are controlled by alleles. And again, if you go back to a bigger category, characters are controlled by genes. Understood? So now what is the definition? Dominant and recessive. ये basic है. You have to remember dominant and recessive क्या है? Dominant, a gene which always expresses. A gene which always expresses. It is like your talkative friend who never stops. 2 friends, one non-stop talking. And very, very dominant and very, very dominating. किसी के साथ भी बिठा दो, always he'll talk. Or he'll always be dominating. But when I talk about a very timid person, when will that person open up and speak? जब या तो उससे भी बहुत soft and timid will come together, then that person would speak up. So when we are talking about the basic understanding is that if it is a dominant allele, expresses with any other type of an allele. Doesn't matter what type of allele is in presence, it will always express. Then what is the recessive allele? It will express only when it has got the other same allele in the 2 chromosomes. In both the chromosomes, the same recessive, the same type of an allele. Clear? What next are you going to understand here is the laws of inheritance. Laws of inheritance. Who had proposed the laws of inheritance? Mendel. What is his full name? Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Johann Mendel had proposed the laws of inheritance. Now this you have to remember. We are talking about the laws of inheritance, and to understand the concept of inheritance. Here, first of all, what type of plant did he work on?
Pea plant.
The pea plants, the garden pea plants. You are asked to write down the common name. You are asked to write down the scientific name. Both you should know. What is the common name? The common name is garden pea. What is the common name? Garden pea is the common name. And what is the scientific name? What is the scientific name? Pisum sativa. Pisum SND25. Spelling check. The rules of nomenclature actually you have not studied. But see that whenever you write, I want all of you to write this specific in your notebook. How to write down the name? There is a specific rule. Nomenclature rules are there. I think 9th standard you have not studied, no? Nomenclature that was omitted. Nomenclature rule says that every plant, every animal has a biological name with two parts. And the first name starts with a capital letter, the second name starts with a small letter. In the exam, when you are asked, write down the biological name and you happen to write this way, you will not get mark for this. That's a wrong way of writing a biological name. So please take care. Easily you can get that 1 mark. So not to write capital S here, always to write small s here and better underline them also. Okay. So that is what we are talking about. What are the reasons for choosing the pea plants? What are the reasons for choosing pea plants? Number 1, the lifespan is short. Lifespan is short. The pea plants had a very short lifespan. So it was very easy for pollinating and growing them and observing the generations in a short period of time. In 3 to 4 months, enough number of plants can be observed. Then next is they are self-pollinating plants. They are self-pollinating plants. Now, if they're self-pollinating plants, now that the process of reproduction in the plant you already studied, I'm talking about a plant which is self-pollinating. So, what type of a class these must be? What type of a class this must be? Unisexual, bisexual? Bisexual. They are self-pollinating. At the same time, they can be artificially cross-pollinated. They can be artificially cross-pollinated. How artificially cross-pollinated? By the removal of the anther and allowing only a specific type of a pollen come in contact with the stigma, etc. And the most important thing is they exhibit 7 pairs of contrasting traits. They exhibit 7 pairs of contrasting traits. What is the meaning of the word traits? Now, I suppose you are already clear. What is the meaning of the word traits? Traits means different form of a character. Traits. So, 4th point jo hai, that's very important. What was one of the reason that Mendel had selected the pea plants? The concept here is something like this, that Mendel, who was a monk, and he had been observing various different type of plants in his monastery. But then this type of plants more or less grabbed his attention, because every time he used to see, sometimes the plants are giving rise to white flowers, sometimes purple flowers, sometimes round seeds and sometimes wrinkled seeds, sometimes green pods, sometimes yellow pods, which was quite interesting for him to see from generation to generation. And then he started working on this type of plants. And the theories that he had put forward was not only applicable true for the pea plants, but that was applicable later for all of the different type of animals and plants. Parin, कुछ तो वहाँ पे गड़बड़ हो रहा है. Yes. Looking at your face, I always had a doubt that can you walk back home straight? But all the mischief in this planet, I think you already know it. Anything. पर इनको कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है? नहीं हो रहा है ना? तो why are you acting weird? Back pain हो रहा है. उम्र कितना है तेरा? Now, what are the 7 pairs of contrasting traits? So we talk about the contrasting traits here, and this roughly you should be remembering also. Check this type of traits. Now there's a table in your volume also. You did not write all of them. Now this traits, roughly you should have an idea which one is dominant, which one is recessive. Let us start with this. I talk about the character. The character is height. If the character is height, What are the traits? The traits are tallness and dwarfness. The traits are tallness and dwarfness. I talk about the next one, color of seed. Now, if I talk about color of seed, what are the traits? Traits are yellow and the other one is green. What next? We talk about the color of the cover, the pod. The color of the pod, the green leafy cover. What are the traits? The traits are green and yellow. Talk about the color of the flower.
Violet and white.
Violet and white. So now we are talking about violet and we are talking about white. Next is the shape of the seed. The shape of the seed. What is it? Round and wrinkled. What happened? Round and wrinkled. Next, we are talking about the shape of the pod. क्या infection हो गया अभी यहाँ पे? Shape of the pod. What about the shape of the pod? We talk about inflated and constricted. Inflate, girls. Let's try to understand. Next is the position of the flowers. Position of flowers. Now that we are talking about the position of the flowers, axial and terminal. Now most of the terms you are understanding, maybe except for few. When we are talking about this different type of color, now this different type of traits. Now again try understanding all these that we write as the first names or the first traits. These are always the dominant one. These are always the dominant. So now, if this is dominant, how will we designate this? Capital T. And if this is capital T, can we designate this by D now here? Can I take just D here? No, that is wrong. If this is capital T, I'll have to take this as small t. Same like this. If this is capital Y, I'll have to, can I take G? No, I'll have to take small y. If this is capital G, I'll have to take small g here. If this is capital V, I'll have to take small v here. So that's a rule, always remember. When you learn the process and you'll be able to do those processes, always remember this rule. अगर क्वेश्चन में ये दो कॉम्बिनेशन दिया है तो W यहाँ पे नहीं लेना है. कैपिटल V है तो स्मॉल v ही लेना है. Then what should I take for this? कैपिटल I. यहाँ पे स्मॉल r. वहाँ पे
Capital I, small
I. नहीं, C नहीं लेना है तो ये रॉन्ग है. कैपिटल A है तो स्मॉल a लेना है. Whatever be the letters here, ये letters कुछ मतलब नहीं है. You are always to check what are the letters here and just the contrasting lowercase letters you have to take. What are the 7 pairs? Roughly to remember this. You are not, I'm not asking that you'll have to remember all of it. You get this in the question paper. But in case it is not mentioned, you should be able to understand. Inflated dominant है कि constricted dominant है. Now, what was the experiment about? What did Mendel do? Mendel had crossed this type of plants. When Mendel had crossed this type of a plant, what did he come across? He had, first of all, taken some tall plants and crossed them with the dwarf. What happened?
What does terminal mean?
I'm sorry, I was explaining some of this one. Tall and dwarf, you understand. This color is not a problem. Round and wrinkled also you understand. No, round meaning it's smoothly even, and wrinkle means it's crumpled, as if it is dry, but it's not dry. As if when a seed is dried, how does the surface appear? It's all wrinkled, no? Exactly. Inflated and constricted also the same thing. Inflated, most of the time, the pea seed that we get to see, all of you must have seen the pea seeds. और उसका जो green cover रहता है, that is fleshy. Most of the time it is fleshy. The green cover जो रहता है, that is most of the time fleshy and that is known as inflated. But sometimes, even for the fresh seeds, we come across sometimes, and that's a recessive condition. Sometimes we come across that though the seeds are very fresh, but then the outer cover is little bit dried and papery. That is what is called constricted. So if the pod is fleshy, by looking at the pod, can you understand how many seeds inside? वो pot को देख के समझ में आएगा. Now that I talk about that, this particular pea seed is there, and it is all fleshy. It is all fleshy. Can we understand how many pea seeds are there? No. But if the peel or if the pod is constricted, you can roughly understand. चलो 6 seeds है इसके अंदर. So it is bit papery. And now axial and this generation, I should tell you what characteristics are so very scary. Give him way. उसको निकलने देना. Go back and sit down. Yeah. See there. Again, why do you have to go and stick to him? Come separate from there. Sit nice. Now, next is when we are talking about axial and terminal. Now, axial meaning I talk about a plant, the pea plant. How the flowers will be somewhere here, the flowers will be somewhere here. Axial. This is the stem, the flowers here, axial. Then what is terminal? Terminal is no flower here. It's all no flower. And then all the flowers will be here, exactly. All the flowers are here. All the flowers are here. All the flowers are here. So at this particular region, there are no flowers. If this is the situation, then this is terminal. Okay. So the meaning of these words. Now we try understanding that what was the experiment all about. The experiment was, that's the basic experiment. He selected some tall and dwarf and crossed these plants. Cross meaning what? He allowed the process of pollination happen. Artificial cross-pollination also he tried. And then he saw that if these are the parental plants, then what he saw in the first generation was, he gets to see that all the plants in the first generation are tall. Whereas he was expecting that some plants will be tall and some plants will be tall. That is what his expectation was. But he saw all plants are tall. Then again he tried with, and this experiment he did a number of times, because at the time he had nothing to refer and understand that whether his work was right or wrong. Then he again selected some plants, round and then wrinkled. And then again, what did he come across? He came across that all the plants developed some round seeds. Not a single plant was having wrinkled seeds. So this type of process he had done enough. And then he every time came across that whenever he had selected two contrasting traits, the first generation plants exhibited only one trait. Not a single plant was wrinkled, not a single plant gave rise to the wrinkled seeds, not a single plant gave rise to the constricted pods, not a single plant gave rise to white flower. So he had more or less tried with all possible features, and then he came to the conclusion that there must be certain method which is not allowing this factor to get expressed. One of the factors is only expressing. If it is tall and dwarf, only tall expressing. If it is round and wrinkled, only round expressing. If it is purple and white, only purple expressing. So he was more or less, after doing a whole lot of experiments every time, he was more or less convinced that when we take two contrasting, only one somehow expresses. There must be some reason why the other does not express. Then, after a couple of years, what he tried was, he tried now breeding this first generation plants. Now, what did he do? He now selected the first generation plants and he tried breeding. When he did so, in the second generation now, what did he observe? He observed, of course, there are a big proportion of plants with round seeds, but there was a small proportion of plants with wrinkled seeds also. Now, this he tried almost a couple of years later from the time he had started his experiments. So now when he had got this was a big understanding for him, and he was very much convinced, because all these years he was feeling that this plants, now that I talk about the round, this plants definitely must be having the wrinkled trait also, but for some reason the wrinkled trait is not expressing. But now that these wrinkled plants have come up in the next generation, he is convinced that yes, this wrinkle trait now is getting expressed here. Let me now tell you the same thing in case of the tall and round, which was his basic experiment. What was this? We are talking about the law of dominance. And how did he put this concept later? Law of dominance says what are the parent plants. I start with the concept of parent plants. Don't write anything now. Understand there's a format of writing this crosses. Parent plants, what were the parent plants? He had taken tall, crossed with dwarf. Now that I write tall and dwarf, what am I writing? Phenotype or genotype? Phenotype. And what was the reason for this phenotype? A pair of alleles like this. Right. What was the reason for dwarf? Small t and small t in homozygous condition he had chosen actually. Then this particular plants, what type of gametes? Later it was understood. Now this was after almost 5, 6, 8 years of his experiments from the time he had started. He understood that this type of plants definitely must be giving rise to a specific type of a gamete. Gamete means what here? It's a pair of chromosome. Gamete formation, always remember, let me tell you very clearly. The moment we talk about gamete formation, what are you to understand? These plants, a pair of chromosome, already I had explained you the concept of eye color and all. When I talk about T and T, what is immediately to understand? A pair of chromosome, जहाँ पे ऐसा कुछ situation है. Then gamete formation means what? This pair of chromosome splits. So the cell is dividing. So the cell is dividing, the pair of chromosomes split. So definitely one gamete with this and one gamete with this. आया समझ में? So when I'm telling a concept of gamete formation, what are you understanding? Basic cell division. Gamete formation means basic cell division. So if it is basic cell division, the pair of chromosome will split. So now tell me, if this is a parent like this with a pair of allele capital T and capital T, how many types of gametes? How many types of gametes? Class 2 types.
No, it's one
type. Type एक ही है ना? All the gametes with capital T. Am I clear? Tell me here, how many type of gametes? This cell when it divides and the pair of chromosomes splits, how many type of gametes from this type of a parent? One type. So this is capital T I would write, and now let me write it proper. And I'm sure quite a number of you must be having a doubt. Again, we will do this next class. So this particular parent producing one type of a gamete because दोनों chromosome में allele same है. So nothing more than one type of gamete और कुछ possibility है ही नहीं. What about this one? Again, homozygous condition है, so only one type of a gamete. If this is so, then what would be the F1 generation plant? F1 generation plant, this gamete undergo the process of fertilization. And what is the combination form? Pair of chromosome form, this one. Hybrid tau. This is what is known as a hybrid condition. Q. Now this chromosomes meaning, what is that? What will this condition, what will you term this condition as? Homozygous or heterozygous? Heterozygous. What will be the allele that is expressing here? Which allele is expressing? Tau. So what will be the phenotype? What will you write? The phenotype is tau. We will write down the crosses the next class.
shape of this thing. ये पता नहीं है kidney shape करने लगे. मैं खाली मेरे बेटा जो भी अभी हाईवे से बोल रही है. अभी तो बाल धोएगी महाराज तो थोड़ा पड़ेगा. आज चेष्टा करेंगे. इकोनॉमी बहुत टेंशन लगा हाय गाइस हेलो गाइस चलो तीनों ने भी पूरा मिस किया इकोनॉमी पूरा पूरा 2 घंटे में दोनों ने
हुआ है
तो जितने तो गेम्स मिस किया उससे ज्यादा हमने मिस किया आई नो हमने न्यूट्रिशन भी मिस किया हमने कौन सा पूरा किया है
हमने 3 बचा
हमने रेस्पिरेशन भी मिस किया है वो इस हमने 5 मिनट मिस किया है
वो भी
नहीं मैंने पूछा ना आंसर ये चैप्टर का दूसरे में मतलब ये तो मत क्या हुआ नहीं एक से दो बेटर ये है चल बोल स्टार्ट स्टॉप एलजी स्टॉप
ये हैंडराइटिंग में है
नेम
लारा
तेरा
ललिता
ललिता
प्लेस
महाराज का पुरस्कार चलिए महायज्ञ का पुरस्कार एग्जाम के 3 दिन पहले आपकी शुरू
वो तो भाई वहां का कटका मान तो भाई छोड़ ही बहुत लंबा है
इसका से एमसीक्यू इसका से एक बार पढ़ा था एमसीक्यू अरे नाम से